Utah politics.
Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Glenn Mills. It is time to go inside Utah politics. We do begin this morning with Senators-elect Jen Plumb and Nate Blouin here to discuss their thoughts on joining the state Senate. Great to have both of you on the show. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you.
Both of you knocked off incumbents in the primary, although your races were very different. Nate, voters spoke loud and clear it was time for change in your district, but Jen, you had a really tight race with Senator Derek Kitchen, the incumbent. Let's start off with why did both of you choose to step up when you were up against the power of incumbency? Jen, let's start with you.
Yeah, well, so with redistricting, the district I'll be representing had the opportunity to take a look at who they felt best represented them. And the District 9, had been represented by both Senator Kitchen and by Senator Iwamoto. And so I felt that there was this kind of opportunity to say, who do you feel like can best represent you? Who do you feel like can get the results that you're most interested in? And it was absolutely, we worked, both of us, I think Senator Kitchen and myself, worked really hard to connect with as many voters as possible. And they ultimately did make the decision to elect me.
If I remember right, it came down to 60 plus?
Yeah, 61 votes.
61 votes,
was
yeah,
the
a very close race.
Very tight.
Nate, before we get to you, I want to ask you, Jen, what was the main difference between you and Senator Kitchen that you were able to convince voters to make that change?
Well, I think honestly, if you look at Senator Kitchen and myself, there probably aren't a lot of issues that we have different opinions on. I think that we probably were pretty squarely aligned in the way that we prioritize things, also the kind of challenges that we really feel like stepping into and fighting for. I think we're pretty well aligned. I do think the main difference that came to be on my side was that a history of results is something that voters are really looking to. And in the last 7 years since being involved as an outsider and as an advocate on the Hill, I've been involved with 14 different bills that ultimately were passed. And so I think that ability to get results spoke to voters, especially in this challenging time when there are such crucial issues coming up in the next sessions.
Okay, Nate, you took on an incumbent that had been there 30 plus years, a long time. Of course, things have developed since then that certainly would have changed the primary race, but going back, it was a different situation at the time, and you won big. How were you able to pull that off?
Yeah, it was an amazing experience. We knocked a ton of doors and talked to so many voters. I think in the primary it was around 17,000 voters ahead of that election, and people were really excited to see some new representation. To me, it's all about representation. As you mentioned, Senator Davis had been in that seat or in that district in the legislature for going on 35 years, and people were ready for something new. Sugar House and some of those other neighborhoods have changed substantially in the time since he'd taken office, and I think I looked forward to the future and was talking about issues that I consider to be urgent, that a lot of folks in the Valley consider to be urgent, you know, whether it's air quality or the Great Salt Lake. They were very excited to hear someone really focused on those issues and maybe not so much on some of the same old stuff that we've been seeing for a long time.
So I mentioned you won big in your primary. I don't know that you saw that happening going into it, but what was it that you saw that made you want to jump in this race and get involved?
Yeah, it was just about making that change, that seeing a better representative of the district, of the state. You know, Utah is the youngest state in the entire nation. I will be the youngest senator in the Senate this year. So bringing that perspective up to focus on things that are important to young people is really important to me. There's a ton of renters. I believe as of the last count, this seat had more renters in the district than any other seat in the state. And I am a renter, so I will bring that perspective up, and I think that is just important to have people that look like you, that are focused on the same issues as you are up at the legislature.
Jen, you mentioned there's a lot of work to be done. So talk about your goals and your vision for your first term up in the Utah Senate.
Yeah, that first space of stepping in with the official kind of, access to that last door, and having been up there and been a part of the legislative process, there is always that last what happens in the, if you've seen the musical in the room where it happens, right? So for me, I think one of my big goals, and this is for all of us up there, I am really hopeful that we can do some work to decrease the contempt that exists. Contempt does none of us any good, and we do not have to agree on everything. We do not have to see the world through the same lenses. But the contempt that I think we've seen, not just in this state, but nationally, it's really not good for our communities. It's really not good for our citizens. It's really not good for good policy. So that is a big goal for me. I intend to continue to focus on the opioid crisis and opioid overdose death prevention as best I can. We still have a lot of decisions to make about settlement funding spending. I am wanting to really step in and act as an advocate as well as a defender for women and for women's health care choices. Our trans youth in particular as well are another population that I really want to be there for as a pediatrician, as someone who's really invested in healthcare, and as a mom. So I see a lot of issues where there's a lot of room to have hard conversations, but important conversations that don't have to be about throwing bombs, that are about let's talk and let's work together and let's be better.
Okay.
Do better. I
want to talk about that a little bit more, and I love the Hamilton reference, one of my favorites.
All right.
But first, Nate, you already scratched on this a little bit. Talk about your goals and vision for your first term in the Senate.
Yeah, absolutely. We have some big gaps up there right now. So we're losing Senator Jenny Iwamoto. She's done all sorts of great work on water issues. I mentioned the Great Salt Lake, of course. We've gotten all this great precipitation this week, so looking forward to seeing that situation improving, but we're certainly nowhere near out of the drought that's ongoing. That's a result of climate change. So really focused on issues around water and climate. I work in the energy space right now, so trying to promote wind, solar, geothermal, things that Utah really is rich in, that's going to be great for the economy, great for folks' health. And we also are losing Representative Steve Handy, who's been a champion of some of those issues as well. So I'm hoping to maybe fill those niches and try and do some work to promote what we've got strong opportunities for in Utah.
Okay, you guys are 6 of 29, a vast minority. There are different types of senators I've seen in the minority caucus, those that send messages and those that pass bills. Senator Maine has been an example of someone who year after year gets things done as far as being one of the top producers up at the Capitol. So with that in mind, how do you work knowing that you have to get a lot of Republicans on your side to be able to pass these things you want to do? What's the strategy for getting things done? We have about a minute left, so about 30 seconds each. Jen?
I am hoping to learn as much as possible from both Senator Escamilla and Senator Maine about how to build those spaces and those bridges, as well as, to make our cases be heard by the supermajority. There is an ability to pass bills as Democrats. These folks have shown it, and I'm on board to do that. I'm not about message, I'm about results.
Okay. Nate, let's talk to you about that. This obviously your first time in public office. You're very active on social media. I would say you're unabashed as far as your opinions go. So how do you work with senators on the other side to make sure you get them on board with what you would like to accomplish?
Sure. I think it's all about building relationships, about being up there and trying to work across the aisle and finding common ground. I really want to get to work with folks. I think my social media personality is one thing, and I believe all of that, and I will promote those issues in the legislature. But it is important to put your head down and get to work and try to solve some important problems that are plaguing the state. So I look forward to just developing relationships and learning and listening, and I think that will lead to success for me and for the caucus.
Okay, your first term will begin in January. I really appreciate having you both on the show and sharing your insight with us this morning. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for the opportunity.
You bet. Still to come, voters have spoken, and we're breaking down the big race